Welcome to Known Profits. Each episode, we sit down with inspiring guests from nonprofits to share their journeys and the impactful work they're doing. We hope their stories resonate with you, sparking inspiration, excitement to get involved with a cause that speaks to you. On today's podcast, we talked to Ryan Engle at Michigan Veteran Homes. We had a great conversation on the organization, how he got there, the folks they serve, and you're going to want to stick around to the end to hear Dick's story.
Yes, JR, I was particularly moved by his story about his friend Dick, and I think it is a great testament to the honor and respect that our veterans and folks who have served our country deserve. So I hope you can stick around for that story as well.
You can support nonprofits by checking out our podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify Podcasts, and interacting with us there. You can check out our socials on Instagram at Known Profits Pod and on Facebook at The Known Profits. Hey, what's going on, everyone? We are here again with another Known Profits. We're joined today with Ryan Engle from Michigan Veteran Homes. We're excited to get to know him a little bit. But before we do, it's December. Holidays are right around the corner. Our question of the day is, what is the best childhood gift you've ever received? JR, I'm going to go to you first. Favorite and the best childhood gift you ever received?
Yeah, the best gift, it was actually a group of gifts, and it was more the experience. My parents put on a scavenger hunt all around the home that led me down to the laundry room where it revealed when I opened the washer and the dryer, we had this Fisher-Price castle set and the pirate ship, and it's a gift I got to enjoy my entire childhood up until adulthood when it was donated out of the garage on accident.
How old were you when this was donated?
This is embarrassing.
I'm very curious.
Like 26.
Man, so how was that? Was it like pretty heartbreaking?
It was to the point where my father actually bought the same exact thing on eBay and shipped it to my kids.
Drew, what about you? Favorite childhood gift?
I don't recall a favorite childhood gift, but this is a timely question because I recently stumbled across a video that my dad digitized. My grandfather was in love with his camcorder, so I had the big full-size VHF over-the-shoulder camera, and I was born in the 80s, and so grew up in the 80s and 90s. And my dad has been going through this process of digitizing all of my grandpa's old videos. And I recently, just 2 days ago, stumbled across one of us at Christmas. And I was opening up Legos with my brother. And I was so excited. I do not ever remember being that excited. So it's just funny to see old videos of you because it's not as normal as now. Now there's videos of kids everywhere. But back then you had to have the old camcorder. And I'm like, wow, I am more like my nephews than I remember being. And so it's just kind of fun to go back to your childhood a bit there and watch those videos.
That's awesome. Mine happened. I think it was third grade. The Sega Genesis just released. I know I'm dating some people here. My cousins had it. They had a Genesis. I wanted one so bad. And so my dad, I think I was still kind of believed in Santa at this point. Spoiler alert, if you're listening, you still believe in Santa Claus. I'm sorry. But one of my last gifts was a cartridge, like Sonic the Hedgehog. And I'm like, what is this? I don't have a Genesis. Why would my dad give me this? And I think it was from Santa. He's like, Kyle, I'm so sorry he disappointed you like that. I thought Santa would be nicer than that. You can take this to your cousin's house and play. And I was devastated. And then he pulled the Christmas Story on me. He's like, wait, there's one more gift under the tree, and the Genesis was behind like the TV stand, and I pulled it out and opened it, and I was like, this is the best Christmas ever. So the Christmas I got my Sega Genesis, I got Sonic the Hedgehog, was pretty epic for me. So what about you, Ryan? Best gift as a child?
You know, as you're talking, it didn't take me long to think, okay, all the years of youth, what was the best gift? And for me, I think it was hands down. It's on video. So my lovely mother, Grace Engle, has it on VHS somewhere. But I was 5 or 6 years old, and it was this Hotkeys guitar. So it was a battery. It wasn't a real guitar. It was like a piano guitar that you held. It was shaped like a lightning bolt. And I remember coming down the stairs. Again, I was 5 or 6, and I remember this, maybe just from watching the video, but I remember I couldn't pronounce my THs. And so on the video, I said, "Thank you, Santa, for a million years." And I was just really excited about it. And that to this day, it's probably in my closet in the house I grew up in. So
that's amazing.
I think a lot of our stuff that we grew up in is still in our parents' closet. It's coming our way at some point.
Hey man, don't say that for JR's right here, okay? That's old. So
Traumatized
a
here.
little more sensitive next time, Drew. But guys, we're really excited again to have Ryan here. He's over at Michigan Veteran Homes. He's the Director of Development and Strategic Engagement. And so, Ryan, tell us a little bit about you, your story, who you are. Share with our listeners.
Yeah. First of all, I'm really grateful to chat with you all and just be here. I, as you said, work for Michigan Veteran Homes. I've been with the homes since 2016, approximately. But I grew up north of Grand Rapids on an old family farm, middle son of a public school teacher. And kind of found my way I started my journey through school and then found my way to college. I had the honor and privilege to serve as an infantry officer in the Marine Corps. I had the opportunity to lead 100 Marines and Afghan soldiers through the largest offensive of the war in Afghanistan. And many challenges, as one would expect in that duty, and many opportunities. I came back. I served as a commanding officer of a machine gun unit here stateside, and then got out of the military. And when I left the service, I really felt that, I had, in some ways, I'll use kind of the metaphor. I mean, I checked that box. I did something good. I felt for the world, and I'm like, okay, now I can go make a lot of money. And I did that. I went and worked for corporate America and made a great living, and it was a really good company, and I have nothing bad to say about that company, but there was a piece of my soul that was, okay, is this it? Am I going to work for 35, 40, 50 years and get a watch when I retire? Is that kind of, that's it, huh? And so I was looking for, what is this? Like, I'm not going to do this for decades and decades. Like, I need to make it. I kind of realized that, making an impact was not something that one checks a box and, okay, I'm done, now on to the next thing. It's kind of a way of living life. And so I was, looking, and I found a job with Michigan Veteran Homes online. Unbeknownst to me at the time, they were going through a really tough time with some audits and some challenges in care. But I applied for a job with Michigan Veteran Homes, got the chance to be interviewed and got hired as the vice president of business services for kind of what they were doing to centralize services and benchmark best practices. And so that's what led me to Michigan Veteran Homes.
Nice. That's awesome. Can you explain a little bit what the Michigan Veterans Homes does? What's their mission? What's kind of that organization all about?
Yeah. So the history of Michigan Veteran Homes, we're state veteran homes. So it dates back to really the post-Civil War era, before the federal government was really doing the work with veterans that they are today. And so really you have, like, right after the Civil War, the states seeing these disabled, destitute veterans on the streets of their communities that fought for the Union and even the Confederate and the post-Confederate states. You see these veterans needing care, and the state stood up and said, hey, we need to do something about this. This isn't right. And the first state veterans home opened in Rocky Hill, Connecticut in 1864. And then you started seeing these facilities for veterans pop up across the country. And Grand Rapids started in 1886, and we've been on the same site ever since. So 138 years, I believe, of caring for veterans continuously. Healthcare has changed a lot. Facilities have changed a lot. And then, over 100 years later, or almost 100 years later, in 1981, they opened a facility in Marquette, Michigan, so up in the Upper Peninsula. And then in 2021, just a few years ago, in Southeast Michigan. So yeah, that's kind of the history of almost a century and a half in a few words.
What types of services do you provide to our veteran community?
Yeah. So our role, there's many services and many needs within the veteran community, but our role is we provide skilled nursing services to veterans and their spouses. So if you kind of think nursing home, we're basically a nursing home for veterans, providing exceptional care and exceptional quality of life to veterans when they need that level of care.
What does that need look like? How many veterans are in need of your skilled nursing care versus receiving that through other means?
Yeah, so when you start to think about the veteran population across the United States and you look at the history of military service, I mean, you think of the World War II and the institution of the draft, you think of the Korean conflict, you think of Vietnam, more than half of Michigan's veterans are, there's more than probably 516,000 veterans in Michigan. More than half are 65 or older. And that trend is pretty consistent across the United States. So the aging of the veteran population, like the baby boomer generation, is very real. So there's a need for long-term care, for veterans and for the American population in general. So we are one option of that long-term care. I might be a little bit biased in thinking we're the optimal option of long-term care, but certainly the federal VA, they contract as well with private nursing homes. But our role as state veteran homes, we're proud of the work we do.
Ryan, what are some of the misconceptions maybe the general public has about like veteran care? What are some of the things maybe you run into when it comes to talking to funders or getting support? Like, what are some of those things that maybe you see every day when it comes to misconceptions?
I think there's misconceptions both in veteran care, but in nursing home care more broadly too. I mean, nursing homes have a stigma, and that stigma was earned through decades of challenges in the nursing home industry before more regulation came in. And, the same would go for veteran care. I think, the sometimes negative reputation that veteran care can have is earned from missteps in past years, by the federal government, by state governments, by what have you. So those are challenges for us, but, the care has changed, both in the federal government, state government, and how we care for veterans. I mean, veterans have a lot of opportunities, not to say we're perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but, we are at Michigan Veteran Homes, we're 5-star care facilities by Medicare and Medicaid, and we're, some of the top nursing homes in Michigan. I would say to your question on, misperceptions, perhaps, while we are, government entities or quasi-government entities, government pays salaries of our employees or utility bills or contract costs, but a lot of the quality of life stuff we do for veterans and later in life and end of life care is all funded by private gifts to our organization.
Mm-hmm. On that note, when you touch on quality of life, so what do some of those activities look like that veterans are involved in?
Yeah, so when I talk about Michigan Veteran Homes as being nursing homes for veterans, I'm hesitant to make that comparison because while those are the services, that's how we're certified and licensed. I'm very passionate that we're different than that because of those quality of life experiences and because of private giving. I mean, we do so much for our veterans. We, whether it's taking them to NFL games, to Detroit Tigers games, to West Michigan Whitecaps games, to Grand Rapids Griffin games, to cookouts, to concerts, to having music within our homes, to pizza parties, picnics, music on site, music off site, community outings, shopping trips. I mean, all the amazing things we're able to do that are funded by community generosity, it makes us different and better for Michigan veterans.
One of the things on your website I noticed was the concept of no member dies alone, and how important that is for the dignity of the men and women who have served our country. Can you speak more to that, and even just what you mentioned about the activities and not being alone, both in the immediate time leading up to someone's passing, but also in that time period, whatever it might be, while they are receiving your care?
Now speaking more broadly, I mean, at Michigan Veteran Homes, we talk about the 5 T's of philanthropy. We talk time, treasure, talent, ties, and testimony. And there's many ways to make an impact in our work and in veterans' lives. To your point on No Member Dies Alone, I mean, that's one of our certainly very special and intimate programs where, if a veteran, volunteering at our home, there's many opportunities to volunteer, from bingo to going on outings, but a special volunteer corps we have are part of that No Member Dies Alone program, which ensures that, veterans that maybe don't have family nearby or don't have family emotionally involved in their life a lot. It ensures that, then those veterans are in their final days, their final hours, that there's always someone there and available in the room. And sometimes that's dialogue, but sometimes it's just presence. And sometimes it's just being there and playing music and knowing that another human is in the room with you. We're very passionate. No veteran lives alone, and thus no veteran should die alone. And so that's the kind of the heart of our program. We're very proud of that.
What does the team look like there? How big is the group that's providing these services?
Well, at every home, it's a little bit different. We are several hundred employees, though, because it's 24/7 care at each home. There's approximately 120-ish veterans, 24/7 care in Marquette, Grand Rapids, and down in Macomb County in Chesterfield Township. So we have, nursing assistants, activity aides, we have physicians, psychiatrists, business office, admissions, social workers. It's really wraparound services for veterans that reside there. So,
Ryan, talk to us a little bit more about some of the mental health cases you might see at the house. What are those like, and walk us through kind of that whole process.
Yeah, we have members, residents, veterans of all kinds at Michigan Veteran Homes, and many experience different mental health challenges. One of the most common, or at least commonly associated with the veteran community, is post-traumatic stress. So there's a lot of that. I'm grateful that we have an incredible social work team, incredible therapists at the home. And every case is a little bit different, and everybody's experience is a little bit different. But I'm grateful that we're engaging the topic of mental health more today than we were in the veterans that were serving at Michigan Veteran Homes. This wasn't a topic talked about when veterans came home from Vietnam or from Korea or from World War II. And so, by us engaging that today, it's helping lives and making lives better.
What's the relationship between the state and the organization? Where does your support come from? Where does funding come from? And how can the community get involved in the organization?
Yeah. And so as we talk, I know the podcast, and in general, we hear a lot about nonprofits, right? And that's a very vague term in some respects. So, my role, I work, my paycheck is from state government. So I'm a government employee. So I always refer to, more impact work than nonprofit work. But so we receive funding from the state government. We receive funding from the federal government via the Department of Veterans Affairs. We receive funding from the federal government from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and we receive private gifts. So we have in Michigan a statutorily protected fund created in law that, accepts donations, and those donations, are in many ways no different than you'd give to a 501c3, where they're tax exempt and for public charity. And our board protects those through, they don't pay, as I mentioned earlier, I think they don't pay salaries, they don't pay utility bills, they don't pay housekeeping contracts. They just pay for the quality of life experiences for the people we serve.
In the state of Michigan, do we have adequate amounts of service and beds available for our veteran community?
Yeah, so the answer to your question is yes. To expound upon it a bit, we're as state veteran homes or Michigan veteran homes. We're one option in kind of the long-term care platter, if you will, where the federal government has community living centers for veterans. The federal government contracts with private facilities for options, but it's really our goal. We've gone in the last 9 years, we've modernized our care and our facilities. So in Grand Rapids, back in 2021, we opened a new 150,000 square foot private bed, private bath. State-of-the-art facility. And you walk in there, you don't feel like you're in you don't feel like you're in a nursing home. You feel like you're in a country club. And it really is that way. And we opened that same type of facility in Macomb County around the same time in 2021. And then we've just been funded to do the same in Marquette. So we're working through the real estate and some processes up there. And we hope to break ground on that in 2025. But then in the long term, we want to build more homes throughout the state of Michigan that are closer to where veterans live. So instead of having really big facilities in Detroit or Grand Rapids, that they're located throughout the state, where, hey, if I live in Gaylord, there's a home that's near me. Or if I live in Battle Creek, there's a home that's near me. So, veterans that are from those communities and they need that level of care, they can go there, but still have family nearby. And so everyone always asks me, what's the timeline of that? And I always say, call your legislator, call your congressman, or call your major giver in your life. But we're slowly working towards that and are excited about the future.
What do we do really good at as a community, but where else can we advocate for more?
I think, Michigan does. I'm really proud and happy with the way that Michigan has invested in the long-term care services for veterans. I'm kind of a long-term care nerd, right? Nursing home services is not like everyone's passion, and I understand that. And like it's special care. It's later in life and end of life care for people who've worn the uniform. And if you were to come by Michigan Veteran Homes or volunteer or just, hey, I want to come to an event, Ryan, can I show up and just check it out? Like that would touch your life. I promise you of that. So I'm proud of how we've evolved in the last decade-ish to where we are today. I think unfortunately it took bad times 10 years ago, a bad audit to attract the right attention and investment to get there, but we're there and that's behind us. And so I'm proud of that. I think opportunities, Michigan has no active duty, has no real big active duty bases. And many would say there's a disconnect between active military service and the veteran community in these states like Michigan that we don't have the same presence that a state like Virginia or North Carolina or Florida or, some of those states that have that more active duty military presence. So they don't have the same connection to the military experience. So I think that's an opportunity for Michiganders to continue to, find ways to connect to those who've worn the uniform and served our nation.
Where are we at generationally as far as folks under your care?
The majority of the members of our homes currently are the Vietnam era, but we still have veterans from the Korean conflict as well as World War II. Now, full disclosure, the World War II population is declining very quickly, in our homes, just as it is across the country. But it's a special generation that we're privileged to serve and honored to be part of their story. And
you were telling us earlier, you might be you're bringing a couple of those veterans to the Lions game coming up.
Yeah, so we are, as veteran homes in our communities, we're fortunate that there's a lot of people that support our work and want to join our mission in honoring the people we're privileged to serve. One of those partners is the Detroit Lions, who reached out and said, hey, we'd love to have some of your World War II vets down, honor them at the Salute to Service game, come down, have a suite, join the VIP group. And so we're doing that, and it's going to just be incredible and just a life-changing experience for them. And here we are, how many decades later, able to honor them, thank them for their service, and just really cool to be part of their story.
And Ryan, what are ways that people can get involved, not just legislatively, but also with the organization? How can we get involved and volunteer, donate? What does that look like?
Yeah, we talk about, time, talent, treasures, ties, and testimony. And every conversation I have in my role, whether it's, legislatively or major givers or volunteers, there's a way to make an impact in people's lives. Whether if it's volunteering, we have plentiful opportunities from, we have an on-site cemetery at our home in Grand Rapids that, we have veterans buried there, Medal of Honor recipients. We have veterans buried there from the Civil War. African-American veterans that served in the Civil War. And, every conflict since, we have veterans buried there, where you can clean headstones. You can do fall cleanup, spring cleanup. You can host bingo. You can attend outings. So there's volunteer opportunities. We have a charitable support fund that funds all of our quality of life, all our outings, picnics, sporting events, community stuff, all the cool things we're able to do is funded through, monetary gifts from private givers. Talent, if you're a musician and you want to come in and play, if you do something, you're a comedian. We have a group here in Grand Rapids that comes from the Comedy Project and does a show. And then I think time, talent, and treasures are the big three that people talk about. I always include ties and testimony, where it's like, the ties of opening doors of relationships to people that, might have treasures or other things that they can make an impact on. And then the testimony of sharing the word we're doing, be our advocate in the community and sharing the impact we're having on people's lives.
Ron, I'm sure there are many since your time at Michigan Veteran Homes, but what's a story of inspiration, you interacting with someone at the home, a colleague that you really just want to share with our audience since you've been there?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would take I'll take that from two angles. My first angle is from my own military service, where in Afghanistan, in my rifle platoon, we took 3 killed in action and 5 wounded in action. And, specifically those 3 killed in action, those are young people that'll never see their families again. And because they signed up to serve our nation. And that's always been very meaningful to me, of such a sacrifice. And how do I give back to that? And how do I live a life that's worthy of such a sacrifice, of someone who's willing to do that? And I found that at Michigan Veteran Homes, of trying to make a difference in people's lives. And I always, one of my favorite stories is a friend I had, and I'll say have, he's since passed away. But, when I had the blessing of being the administrator at Michigan Veteran Homes, DJ Jacobetti, which is located in Marquette, Michigan, as the administrator, you're very operationally involved. I mean, you should know, and I did, every member of the facility, we called them members, that, residents of the home, who thinks the lights are too bright and who thinks the lights are too dim, and who likes the food and who doesn't like. I mean, it's living life. And this gentleman, one of these gentlemen, was named Dick Wills, and Dick was a World War II veteran who signed up for the Army in the late 1930s as a reservist, and thought he was going to do a year or two stateside. And obviously the late 1930s was a time of global conflict, and he ended up spending 4 years straight in Europe, was at the Battle of the Bulge, Rhinelander, and other places, and then eventually came back to the United States, married the love of his life, and worked in the mines in the Upper Peninsula for 38 years. And Dick, did that, lived his life, was very involved in community organizations. And then at age 93, ran for mayor of his hometown of Negaunee, Michigan, and won. And he was the oldest mayor in the country at the time, which was really cool. Anyways, Dick lived at Michigan Veteran Homes in his final years, and he became a friend of mine. And I just really enjoyed getting to know him. And he was just one life. And I always think about that of, every story, every life in here has just a remarkable story. And it's the stuff you read about in history books and textbooks. And I got to be a part of it. And that's pretty inspirational to me. And so Dick has since passed away. He died at 101 years old, I believe. But just to be part of his story, however small, was inspirational to me.
Ryan, thank you so much for sharing those stories. I think they're stories that need to be repeated, and I'm glad that we could have that on this show. I believe in my heart that it is something that all of us in our community should be very interested in supporting, so that those who have served our country live out the final years of life with dignity, with respect, and with the honor they deserve. So thank you for your service. Thank you for the work you're doing in this community, and your colleagues as well.